100 years from now, if somebody should bring up my name, if it would still be around, it would be nice if people say, geez, I thought he was a good writer. His stories gave me a lot of pleasure. That's what people tell me now, and it's the best thing any writer can ever hear. When I see the characters that I help to create on the screen, I don't really think of them as my characters. I really sit in the theater and I watch them the way every member of the audience watches them. And at the end of the movie, I usually say, damn, that was good. I'm so glad. But I work with artists who brought them into life, who let people see what they look like and showed the action. There are directors who added so much to the characters and their direction, and the actors who brought so much. It isn't a one-man field. There's so many people contribute. I'm just happy that I've had a hand in all of this, and I'm happy that even after all these years, someone bothers to interview me about it. I'm really very flattered.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of
Pop
Sherrill, the most hardest pronounced pop culture podcast on the planet.
Getting better.
It's getting there. I'm your host, Brian, a.k.a. B-Hearn, a.k.a. Dr. Doom.
And I am Jerry, a.k.a. Jadon, a.k.a. your friendly neighborhood green man.
Oh, I'm not crying, you're crying. I'm Matthew, a.k.a. Mr. Fantastic. Dr. Fantastic?
Mr.
Doctor.
That guy.
Today's episode is going to be a little tribute from us to the one and only, the incredible Stanley Martin Lieber, a.k.a. Stan Lee. He left us this past week, and of course it's affected millions upon millions of people. So we're just going to talk about, favorite Stan Lee cameos, first impressions on his comics. Just kind of like our little shout out and tribute for the man that has inspired so many, and honestly is one of the biggest inspirations for us to even start this podcast.
Amen.
So we'll go ahead and kick it off with Jerry, aka Jadon.
Well, when I think of Stan Lee, I immediately think of all the countless characters and stories that he wrote. The man was a creator through and through. I mean, and you see the interviews with him back in the old days. I mean, he really just wanted to get in the industry, in the publishing industry, period. Mm-hmm. And then when he got his foot in the door somewhere, he found that they had this comic section, and then that they really needed some help.
Yep.
And wow, he really gave them. Like Charlie Murphy, like, yo, we just gave him some help.
Love it.
Like, wow, like it was just the boost that Timely needed to get their feet off the ground and then to morph into Marvel Comics. Mm-hmm. What an amazing man! And I also, when I think of Stan Lee, not only all of his creations and all of his ideas, but just the man himself. Just the guy is just a humanitarian through and through. You hear all these interviews with him, and the general consensus is, I mean, read his stories, but listen to his actual words. He loved everybody. Mm-hmm. He wanted everybody to be able to enjoy this. This fantastic world that he created. He wanted everybody to be able to enjoy that, and he even said, it doesn't matter, what religion, color. Whatever. It's just we're all human, in our core, and he put out so many great stories, and we can all enjoy them.
Agreed. Completely
Very
agree.
nice. Yeah.
Matthew?
It gets a little personal for me because, when you were the way that I found out that he passed. Mm-hmm. He texted me, said he's going, and I was like, oh.
We're like a sewing circle. We're like back and forth. Oh my God! Did you hear? Did you hear this?
Did you hear? Yeah. I was like, oh, that sucks. But he was 95. Mm-hmm. So at the same time, in the same breath, it was like, oh, he lived a really good life.
Oh yeah.
Very full life.
Seemed like he did exactly what he wanted to do.
Yep.
Which gets into the personal side, like when you said he loved everybody, and that's what I promote. Mm-hmm. Just, everybody love everybody and just get along. And he was so creative, like so just to think that there would be no Spider-Man, or there would be like
No Avengers.
no Wolverine, no Avengers. Like it's incredible. It's incredible. And I mean,
Fantastic
you
Four.
can't really. It's not really fair to like put movies against that,
Right.
because I mean, it had to come from somewhere.
Exactly.
And it came from him.
Yeah.
And it was already well written
Right.
and well established. It's just Hollywood got their hands on it, and I mean, for better or worse, they made it really cool.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, sometimes better, sometimes
Exactly.
worse.
Definitely
Right.
50-50.
But and if you listen to what he just said in the beginning, like, he just wants to leave a legacy. He just wants to be remembered, and it would be really cool if people kept talking about me after,
He's so humble.
if I
So
left
humble.
a piece of me that people actually gave a shit about and continued to talk about well after I was gone. And yeah, the humility of it all is like, I get that. That's what I want. Like, I don't know. I don't want to say, but I'm writing my story.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
and that's exactly how I feel. Like, it's my story, but at the same time, it's everybody's story.
Agreed.
And everybody needs to like tune into it the way that they would grab it. Mm-hmm. And that's all I need. That's all I want.
Yeah, Brian, what are your
Agreed.
takeaways from the Stan the Manly?
I mean, of course, like everybody else, I was devastated. I was at the hospital visiting Mom Dukes. Big shout out to Mom. She had a couple medical issues going on, and the Stan Lee thing came through, but I had to kind of put the Stan Lee thing on the back burner, of course, to take care of the family. But he's been instrumental to a gigantic part of my life. I mean, I can't tell you how many paper routes I had to run to every week spend that money on Marvel Comics, whether if it was X-Men, X-Force, Fantastic Four, Silver Surfer, Daredevil, the whole 9 yards. Since a kid, Stan Lee's definitely been a big part of my life. And of course, as you get older, you start seeing the movies come into play, and the cinematic adventures, which is something that my family and I live off of, is going to the movies. And I mean, I still never forget the first time I saw the Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the greatest things I've ever witnessed, in a movie theater.
At the time.
At the time.
Finally got it.
Yeah.
It was,
And people that they never gave a shit, gave a shit.
Exactly.
And it grabbed them. It was, yeah.
Yeah, it was good. The special effects were where it needed to be at that point. And then, so it definitely did it justice. Whereas, we all remember the corny stuff in the 80s, whether it was The Punisher, of course, the
Dolph Lundgren,
the unreleased Fantastic Four movie, which was just released on
that's a
YouTube.
Roger Corman, yeah.
But I mean, you got to give Stan Lee credit, though, because without him, we wouldn't have had those movies to begin with. Not saying that they were great back then, but that's why Marvel went out to Hollywood in the first place, because he saw them, the books, bigger than the books themselves and the comic books, seeing them on the silver screen.
That's why they shopped out all their big characters, for all those years. They wanted, their characters in some major motion pictures and TV, and the way they had to do that is in the beginning they had to kind of make deals with the big studios and let them take the reins and hope that they did justice to the character.
Yeah. I mean, it took those flops too.
Yeah.
Even like the great Spider-Man that you thought was really dope at the time.
Right.
I mean, looking at the new one,
Right.
like the Homecoming, was like, damn, that should have been that all along.
Right. And just like you said, I mean, Hollywood's definitely going to have some flops out there and then some good ones, but the man, he left behind a fantastic legacy. Just a couple of fun facts about Stan Lee that I was doing some more research on him. He states that his self-confidence came from the fact that his mother thought everything he did was brilliant. So shout out to all the moms out there. I know our moms are the same way, at least what we put down on paper. Maybe not everything I've done in my life has been brilliant, but some of the other stuff.
We won't talk about that.
And early in his career, he actually wrote obituaries for celebrities at a news office in New York. But he quit it because it was too depressing. So completely understandable. Mm-hmm. And, he was a firm believer in, if you do what you love, you never really will work a day in your life.
Yeah.
And
it's all fun. I mean, you're getting paid to do what you want to do and have fun.
Exactly. And, to talk about the timely comic spot, he got his opportunity to write a 2-page Captain America comic, and he wrote it under the pen name Stan Lee, which is when he officially changed his name to Stan Lee, and titled it Captain America Foils the Traitor's Revenge. And his first full comic script would come in Captain America's issue 5, August 1st, 1941. So,
Some pretty big things
World
going on,
War
man.
stuff, man.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's intense.
Yeah. And just the last little fun fact an issue at the printers is what turned the Hulk green. So the character was supposed to be gray, but according to Lee, the printer had a hard time keeping the color consistent. So as of issue number 2, Lee wrote, with no explanation, he turned green. And in true Stan Lee fashion, he was like, fuck it. We'll run with it.
We'll go with it.
So as far as favorite characters based on, I did kind of 2. So I did my favorite characters in the movies that he did, and then my favorite like comic book characters of his. As far as the creators, the characters that he either created or co-created, I got Juggernaut, of course, Spider-Man, Daredevil, Doctor Doom, Silver Surfer, and Galactus. In the movies, love Groot, love Ronan, and then the Vanisher was actually one of his creators, and Ant-Man.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I mean, you named off a list of them. My big thing with Stan Lee is he's responsible for the X-Men, and I've always loved the X-Men. These guys have just been shit on their whole lives. It's a group of people that have these abilities but are shunned for it, and they're not like the Avengers where people like lift them up and like, oh yeah, those are my heroes. Like when people think of mutants, it's a derogatory kind of thing. Like people don't like them. They're like jealous of them even. But him being responsible for setting up the X-Men has always been a huge thing for me, because I've always felt like an outsider, somebody that didn't belong, and here's this guy that's telling us like, hey, it's okay, shit's gonna happen, you're not gonna feel like you're gonna belong, but yeah, you find the people that you have things in common with,
and find your crew.
Right, exactly. You're gonna find your crew no matter what. And so him creating the X-Men was a huge thing for me. Another big thing for me is talk about character development. This guy, he creates characters, and he knows that he's creating characters for this make believe sci-fi kind of fantasy world, but he makes the heroes and the villains really chock full of humanity. Really, I mean they have. Peter Parker, for instance, he's of course he's a hero. He's got the powers of Spider. He's got the strength. He's got the agility, speed. But he's got character flaws, just like everybody does. He's a kid. He wants to belong. He's got trouble in his love life. He's looking for the next romance. These are all problems that we all have, and Stan Lee did such a good job of making that a basis for the characters that he created.
Yeah, very relatable, very human-like.
I like Spider-Man, and I don't like. I've never caught myself saying that, like how much I really appreciate Spider-Man for what he is.
Right.
But the whole story, like a kid from Queens,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, and I didn't really appreciate it like when Tobey Maguire did it. He wasn't a kid from Queens. But the new
Kid from Hollywood.
Yeah. Yeah. And then in the whole, what was that, Spider-Man 2 when he did the strut?
No, that was 3.
That was 3.
It was
Yeah.
3?
God,
Oh
that
my
was
God.
horrible.
That ruined everything. For
Finger
me.
guns.
Yeah.
You get finger guns.
And then he did the dance and the, yeah. At any rate, we're not here to talk about that. Love you, Stan Lee.
Oh, this isn't the shit on
He didn't direct it. He didn't direct it.
And not for nothing, I really like the first Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we've seen it before,
Yeah.
but it was really shitty.
Yeah.
And then when they did it, and then I really like the way they did Doctor Doom. I've always wanted to see Doctor Doom on the big screen like that.
Yeah, I'd like to see a standalone Doctor Doom eventually.
Well, before the whole buyout thing, Fox had plans to use Mads Mikkelsen. He was in Doctor Strange as Caecilius. He was
Rogue One.
He was in Rogue One.
Yes.
He was
Yeah.
Galen Erso, and then
Hannibal.
he was in Hannibal. But he was actually
He's a really
tapped.
good actor.
He was
He's
going to be
fantastic.
Doom, but I don't think that's going to happen now because of the buyout, and I'm really pissed about that. Because he would have been an awesome Doctor
And as
Doom.
far as the X-Men go, like in a not so twisted way, I feel the same about like the whole mutant, anti-mutant thing. It's a race war.
It really
Right.
is. I mean,
Right.
And I caught it from all sides, to be honest with you. Being here in Greensboro, it's like, oh, I'm not white, I'm not black, I'm
Yeah.
Where do you go?
What are you?
Yeah, I got a lot of that.
Yep.
You lost,
as
boy.
As Puerto Ricans, we were able to walk that line a little bit.
Yeah.
A big thank you to one of our sponsors, Jeff Beal, and his team at Throwback Custom Cars in Raleigh, North Carolina. For over 30 years, they have specialized in classic car restoration as well as residential/commercial automation technology and audio-video systems. There is no project too big or too small, and they work all across the U.S. To set up a consultation, contact Jeff at 919-235-8337 or go to throwbackcustomcars.com and fill out the Contact Us form. Before we get into, of course, what he's known for, especially for, for people that aren't exactly fans of the comic books or whatnot, was his appearances in the Marvel movies. I just want to state one thing here, too. I mean, the box office impact alone from his movies is outstanding. I mean, he's got 3 of the top 10 highest grossing U.S. films of all time.
Ever.
He's got Black Panther at number 3 with $700 million, Infinity War at number 4 with $678 million, and the original Avengers at $623 million. So, I mean, we're talking obviously.
The first one.
Yeah, the first
that still
Avengers.
stands, huh?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, in the top 10. So, I mean, and that's just U.S. I didn't look to see what it was international and all that stuff. So, I mean,
They're killing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's a juggernaut. I mean, pop culture is here to stay. It's been here for a while, and we love it. I mean, that's why we have this podcast. So,
And I was really impressed the way that Thor came out.
Yeah,
Like that took a long time too.
it did.
They had to get that right.
Yeah, it wasn't a hit at first, and I mean, and Hollywood's never. I wouldn't say never going to get it right the first time. I mean, they get it right sometimes, but there's times where they got to work out the kinks. They got to bring in the right writers, they got to bring in the right directors. And then they go from there. So, I mean, I agree. I wasn't a big fan of the first 2 Thors. Ragnarok is probably in my top 5 now as far as MCU movies goes.
And it was pretty accurate as far as like book to screen.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And,
Agreed.
And and to touch on Thor, like you could see his influence. Like even like when we talk about like Adventures in Babysitting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And he was a big deal in that movie.
Yeah.
And the little girl loved Thor.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. It was amazing. Like even back then.
Yep.
Hey, kid, I got one of these at home.
Well, I mean, that's the best thing about
Sergeant
pop culture,
Gomer
too.
Cool enough here, man.
It's, that's what people don't understand. Well, not all people, but a lot of people don't understand is, comic books, movies, entertainment. I mean, this is a release and escape from the everyday struggle that is life, paying bills and just trying to get by. This is how we try to get through,
Not
before.
for Spidey. He's broke.
right.
Superhero,
He's still a superhero, though. But yeah,
superhero genius.
he's
but
still rocking
broke.
that moped and delivering pizzas, though. Before we get into the cameos, though, I do want to get into this real quick just because it's been on my mind ever since this fucking guy said his thing. So Bill Maher of I don't even want to say
Real
fame,
time.
real time.
Politically incorrect.
So pretty much, let me just get into it right here. Earlier this week, Bill Maher, a.k.a. the most useless TV personality and comedian on the planet, released a blog post questioning the legitimacy of comic books and completely disrespected the godfather of comics, Stan Lee.
Boo.
One of the nicest, most genuine human beings on the planet, according to anyone that has literally ever met or spoken to the man. Bill Maher states, the guy who created Spider-Man and Hulk has died, and America is in mourning. Deep, deep mourning for a man who inspired millions to, I don't know, watch a movie, I guess. My fucking skin crawls just hearing that line because I hear it in his voice. He continues with, now I have nothing against comic books, as I read them as a kid and Hardy Boys, but the assumption everyone had back then, both the adults and the kids, was that comics were for kids, and when you grew up, you moved on to big boy books without the pictures. He continues his tirade against comic books, saying the industry is only succeeding because dumb people got to be professors as they wrote papers and theses about comic book characters. I'm going to try to sum this up a little bit. So pretty much he goes on his little tirade or whatever, but then ends his tirade with a spite-filled rant by saying Donald Trump would only be voted in as president in a place where comic books are important. So I spent a little while writing this up and just wanted to kind of speak on behalf of the show and everybody else. So first and foremost, Bill, on behalf of myself, everybody here at Multi-Poptural, my daughter, family, friends, and the millions of comic book fans, movie lovers, comiccon attendees, cosplayers, and pop culture fans across the globe, you can go fuck yourself.
Yes.
For years, your political tirades and stand-up comedy have been mediocre at best, and right after the passing of a wonderful human being who has done so much for others, you bash him and the legacy he's left behind. You didn't have the balls to say any of this while he was alive, but you don't waste any time shortly after his passing to dump your garbage in the form of a blog. You are pure fucking scum in doing so. To think that society is pretty much dumber for adults continuing to enjoy comics and movies instead of reading The Grapes of Wrath or watching Citizen Kane on repeat is the most asinine thing I've ever heard. Are you just upset because you're becoming less relevant by the second and you blame comics and movies for why people aren't tuning in or seeing your shows? Or are you still bitter that he deleted your scene from Iron Man 3, which you gladly collected a check for?
Ooh. Did you talk about it? Talk about it. Just talk about it.
Did you ever think that comics, movies, the Marvel Universe in general is a great escape from the everyday stress that comes with life? I'm sure you enjoy seeing people fight about politics all day, and hell, you probably even get off on it. But for the rest of the world that doesn't want to fight 24/7 on social media or with each other on left-wing, right-wing, Democrats, liberals, etc., entertainment platforms like the Marvel Universe is the break we need to wind down from all the bullshit the world throws at us on a daily basis. Comics, movies, cartoons, etc. bring families together, helps people fight anxiety and depression, and most importantly teaches us all that it's okay to be different and we can make a difference in this world. We may not be able to fly or have superpowers, but the stories from the comics and movies teach us great life lessons and most importantly gives us hope for the days ahead. Now, just to wrap this up real quick, because I didn't want to go on too long about it. This is actually like the most upset I've ever been on any of my podcast episode. But Bill Maher is what you fucking did.
I can feel the heat. I can feel the heat.
We don't talk politics on this show, and we aren't starting now. But your comment that Trump would be only voted in as president in a place where comic books are important is the biggest bunch of bullshit I've ever heard in my entire life, and I've heard a lot of bullshit in my day. Comic book and box office sales didn't determine who sits in the White House. And honestly, at the end of the day, no matter who is in the White House, Trump, Obama, or a fucking Martian, I still got to go to work every day and provide for my family and try to create a better life for them. Did you want to become relevant again by talking shit about someone and his fans moments after he passes? Don't hate on a man for leaving a huge impact on millions just because nobody would really give a shit when it's your time to go.
Ooh, yes.
I don't wish ill on anyone, but I'm sure when it's the unfortunate day of your passing, the one or two posts you might get will say Bill Maher, guy who talked shit moments after Stan Lee died, passed away today. There's your legacy, and congratulations for being the person who practically invented trolling. Don't bring politics into a man's legacy, and again, on behalf of all the pop culture fans on the planet, here's a big fuck you from all of us. By the way, I'm sure you're up on stage right after Bingo lets out at the nursing home, you fucking bum.
Hey, did you hear what Bill Maher said about Stan Lee? Jesus.
So, wanted to get that out. Like I said, I was angry. You know, and I mean, a lot of people are angry about it. So, want to get that in the middle of the show so we can go back to the lighter moments. So, back to the cameos. Jerry, what's some of your highlights on the Stan Lee cameos from the movies?
Well, I mean, God, he's popped up in fucking everything, hasn't he? I mean, from TV to cartoons to video games even, and then the movies in the MCU. This guy has popped up more times than anybody. I mean, as far as, are we doing favorite cameos? Are we doing...
You can do favorite, honorable mentions, whatever you want to do.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go all right, I'll go honorable mention, and then I'll go my favorite. Okay, so my honorable mention is in the OG Ong Lee Hulk movie, where there's a scene where it shows Stan Lee dressed up as a security guard coming out of the
Lou
door
Ferrigno.
with a Lou Ferrigno in a security guard outfit.
Still yoked.
Yeah.
For those young bloods in the audience, Lou Ferrigno played the Incredible Hulk on the Incredible Hulk TV show back in the, what is it?
In the form of the Hulk.
70s, 80s?
70s, I believe.
Late 70s.
Yeah.
And so this was a throwback to him and, Hulk in general, but there's a scene where they're coming out and they're both as security guards, and Stanley's telling Lou Ferrigno that he needs to be more vigilant and we really need to take care of this and look and make sure this area is secure, when Lou Ferrigno could beat the shit out of any threat that place could ever have.
His shirt's like 3 times
Oh,
too
God.
small.
It's like up to here.
Just give me life lessons, Granddad. I mean,
I haven't seen him in anything else except for I Love You, or what is it? I Love You, Man? Lou
Ferrigno?
Ferrigno?
Yeah.
He's great at that, though.
I've seen him in He was at a convention we went to.
Well, I mean, as far as movies, but yeah, no, he was at Raleigh. He was at Raleigh SuperCon. Yeah.
But no, my ultimate favorite Stan Lee, proper MCU cameo has got to be in Avengers: Age of Ultron, where they're celebrating, they're having a little party about how they defeated Hydra and they got the Mind Stone back. And so they had the little party, and everybody invited their friends, and like Falcon showed up, and Maria Hill was there, and
it was at Iron Man's place, right?
Right. Yeah. But then Captain America.
Jordan loves Falcon.
But Captain America, I guess, invites some of his old World War II buddies.
That's right.
And
I was wondering what they were doing there.
Yeah.
Okay, so they were his buddies.
Those were guys he knew way back when.
Okay, now that makes more sense.
And so one of these guys, one of these World War II veterans, was played by Stan Lee, and he's joking about how or Thor breaks out his,
not made for mere humans.
Right. This his
Asgardian mead,
Asgardian hooch,
Asgardian moonshine.
And so he's like, this isn't made for mortal men, and he's like, come on, man, just.
Oh no, he goes, neither was Omaha Beach.
No, and then Omaha Beach, Blondie. And so he finally gives him a little bit, and then he gets another little scene where they're dragging him off, and he's wasted. He's like,
sounded like Yoda.
That's definitely my favorite, proper MCU cameo.
Right on. I appreciate the subtle ones. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong; those are hilarious. But my favorite one was in X-Men. I think it was Apocalypse, when he's watering the lawn and Magneto just shifts everything up, and
the water's like flying upwards.
Yeah, the water starts going up, and all the cars start lifting up, and I thought that was pretty cool. And then I think there was like a
that was Last Stand.
Was it Last Stand?
Yeah.
Was it the same one when he looks up and he's got these glasses on and you can see the rocket?
That's Apocalypse.
That's Apocalypse.
Yep.
That's my favorite one.
Because
he doesn't say a word.
No,
he just looks up and you can see the thing going up in his glasses.
That shit was dope.
And the one in the latest Deadpool, he wasn't even in it, but it was like a mural.
Oh, the mural. Yeah.
I
thought that was cool. Like,
X-Force.
Way to get that in there, because he was in the trailer for it.
Right.
Deadpool was like, "Shut up, Stanley!" Like,
right.
But he made it.
Well,
he didn't.
They do that with the TV shows, especially. They don't have Stan Lee doing an actual cameo per se. But they do have, still pictures of him. Like I remember in Jessica Jones and Daredevil, like he pops up. He's like dressed as like a police officer. Or he's like on a poster in the precinct or whatever. So they do fit him in to most everything Marvel related, even though he doesn't have a bona fide cameo scene in the TV shows.
Do we expect that to increase or stay the same?
As far as the subtle ones like that. Yeah. I mean, I hope
they have to go to that now.
I hope they don't increase it. I don't want to make it super obvious, you know what I mean? But hopefully, at least stays the same. Mm-hmm. That's my guess for it. We'd like to take the time to thank one of our sponsors, Andrew Newman, attorney at law. Located here in Greensboro, North Carolina, he can assist you with your criminal as well as traffic violations, and his practice includes Guilford, Forsyth, as well as all surrounding counties. To set up a free consultation, you can contact him at 336-663-2388, and you can also visit him on his website, attorneynewman.com. All right, before I get to my favorite one, there was one that I did not notice until the other day when I was looking up cameos. His one in the original X-Men on the beach. When the senator guy comes out of the water.
Was the hot dog guy, right?
No, he was just he was next to the TV.
I think he was a hot dog vendor.
Was he?
I think so.
He was just happened to be there as Senator Kelly walked out.
Yes, Senator Kelly. So maybe I know my memory's going to shit, but I totally forgot about that one. The original Iron Man, love that one where Robert Downey comes up, says, "You look great, Hef."
Didn't he have the pipe?
He had the pipe, the damn smoking jacket, all that stuff. Of course, Civil War, when he comes up with the package looking for Tony Stank. Yeah. Yes, Tony Stank. Here he is.
But we needed that at that point in the movie. There was a lot of drama going on. We needed Tony Stank.
Yes, we did. It needed to end on a lighter note. But my favorite one, is got to be the original Deadpool one. I don't know if it's just because I was a DJ at a gentleman's club for a few years, but the coming up on stage right now, give it up for Chastity, Stan Lee cameo. When I hear him say it, I hear myself saying that years ago as a DJ at a gentleman's club that will not be renamed on here. But I just love that one. And a little fun fact about that cameo is, in quotations, he goes, "I don't know if I should tell you the truth about the cameo. It will kill all your fun," said Lee. "I was not in the topless dancing place. I did that in the studio, and they put it in the movie." Aww. But he continued, "I'm damn mad about that." And he goes, "I made them a promise on the next one. I'm going to be right there." Yes. So that's one of my favorite cameos from Stan Lee. I mean, I'm definitely going to miss him. It's one of those things as you're watching a Marvel movie you look for. Like, even if the movie is not as great as some of the other ones out, you're still looking for it. You know, I mean, I still remember watching Civil War. I didn't think we were going to get it, you know, because it came on at the very, very, very end. So, you know, it's...
What was it in Ant-Man and Wasp?
I remember what it was. He was part of Luis's little montage where he's talking
the bartender.
The story. And he's
yeah,
where everybody's speaking, but they're
he's
mouthing
talking,
it, and he's talking, and so he gets to say, "Yeah, crazy good."
Need more Luis in our life.
Yeah, Luis is great. Well, can we talk about other cameos? Like because Stan Lee pops up in different things.
Tell us about the Mallrats one.
I was watching back in my teenage years certain filmmakers' movies, and damn if Stan Lee didn't pop up in the second one. I'm, of course, talking about Kevin Smith's, what are you going to call it, Jersey Trilogy, I guess? Started. We have,
never heard it referred to as such.
We're not counting Jersey Girl in that, are we?
No.
God.
No, I'm
Chasing Amy?
Well, I'm talking about Clerks,
okay,
and then Mallrats, and then Chasing Amy, and then the rest came after that.
Okay.
But God, I will never forget. I love Kevin Smith's movies. I've been a big fan of Clerks when it came out, and then Mallrats was the sequel, and it was just all over the place. And I'll never forget hearing the iconic voice of Stan Lee popping up in Mallrats, and it was a big scene about how. The people in the movie, Brody and T.S., were both going through girl trouble, and they were trying to win back their prospective others. And so Stan Lee pops up just at the right time to give Brody the kind of talk that he really needs at that time.
I like it, the talk.
And so Stanley's immediately bringing up couples in love and, the one that got away and all this stuff. And Brody can't help but start talking about Mr. Fantastic's stretchy parts and whether or not the thing's dork was made of orange rock or not.
Inquiry minds want to know, damn it.
And, of course, that's what all, come on, we're
fanboys. That's what we want to know.
These are the pressing issues we need to know from an icon like Stan Lee. But no, he just keeps going back to when the girl is my one biggest regret kind of thing, and kind of talks him into trying to win his girl back. But him showing up in that movie, which Mallrats had a ton of comic related stuff going on in it anyway, and just to see him pop up and be in the movie as himself and giving advice and then joking around at the end like, I think he bought it. You really get your friend some help. He's fixated on superhero sex organs. But it was amazing seeing him pop up in that, and I thank Kevin Smith and Stan Lee for doing that.
Like it.
Did he pop up in anything else that you guys saw?
Not that I can remember.
I do know that he has a cameo in the new PS4 Spider-Man game.
Which I have...
He was in Big Hero 6.
Started it yet.
Yeah, he was in Big Hero 6 too.
Yep.
That was a Marvel property, believe it or not. That was weird.
That was an awesome movie. That was unexpectedly great.
It was really good.
Because, I didn't know shit about it going into it, and came out, loved it. Loved it.
It's probably because they killed somebody really quickly.
Yeah, that's when you know it's going to be good.
Yeah.
It's like someone died real early. This fucking movie's going to be awesome.
Good and terrible.
Good and terrible.
Matthew, you got anything else, bud?
Sorry, I really don't. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good. Before I wrap up, I just want to say I had the pleasure of briefly meeting Stan Lee at New York Comic-Con
You always got to know
2 years
everybody.
ago.
The second time we said that within the hour?
So it was our first Comic-Con ever. As far as like a big one, New York Comic-Con, it was myself, my daughter, our friends Amy Pitts and Tila Rumfeld up in New York. Big shout out to them.
Love you guys.
And we were going to go regardless. He ended up being put on the list, and then it was also stated that it was going to be one of his last Comic-Cons as well. So we signed up to make sure that we got like the little picture package or whatnot. So we got on the very last group for Saturday. And, they give you time, you wait in line the whole 9 yards. So as you're going through, they kind of shuffle you in and out. So you don't have a lot of, it's not like a Q&A or a meet and greet by any means. It's like, hey, you have 2 people on this side, 2 people on this side. Don't talk to them. Don't say shit. I'm like, fuck this. I'm at least going to say hi.
Turn and burn.
So,
Get them out.
Yeah.
In and
So
out.
it's our turn, and, we're getting ready to take the picture. And, he's just sitting there, same pose, smiling. I mean, as nice as can be. We take the picture, and I just want to say, Stan, my daughter and I, we are gigantic fans, and thank you for everything. And, I mean, he just turned around and he said, you're welcome, kid. I was like, and I'll never, ever forget that. So still have the picture.
What an appropriate Stanley thing to say.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I was just glad he
You're
called
welcome,
me kid.
kid.
And I told my daughter, I was like, he's calling me kid, not you. But just to wrap up, Stan Lee made it a point to combat bigotry and racism with his soapbox editorials during the 60s. One of these soapbox pieces went viral again last week, but for a very good reason. Published in 1968, the soapbox in question sees Lee use his platform to combat bigotry and racism, saying that comics are for people of all shapes, sizes, and colors. Lee continued using his platform to spread an anti-racism message nearly until the end. In a video posted last year, Lee reminded us that we are all a part of one big family. The man next to you, he's your brother, Lee said. The woman over there, she's your sister. And that kid walking by, hey, who knows? He may have the proportionate strength of a spider. We're all a part of one big family, the human family, and we all come together in the body of Marvel. And you're part of that family. You're part of the Marvel universe that moves ever upward and onward to greater glory. In other words, Excelsior. So that's going to do it for us today on this podcast. Thank you, Stan Lee, for everything you've done. This one's for all our fans out there and all the Marvel comic book fans, the fanboys, fangirls, to everybody out there. Everybody except for Bill Maher. You can go fuck yourself.
Fuck you, Bill Maher.
And we'll catch you on the next one.
Started this. I hope that people would buy the magazine so that I'd keep my job and not be fired and be able to eat and sleep and pay the rent.
What does a hero mean to you?
A hero is a guy who does more than the average man would do in order to right a wrong, to take care of an injustice, to protect somebody. A hero is somebody who really risks his life to help other people.
I've been the luckiest man in the world because I've had friends. I love you all, and I wish you all the best, and of course, Excelsior! Thank you. I guess one person can make a difference. Enough said.